Let's see. We might as well wait for the giant dump truck to get the heck out of here. Nah, you don't want the big horn to go off.
They don't count.
Yeah. How many have you had so far?
This is my first shorty.
Have you done any? You haven't done any rumble mitts yet?
No. That'd be presentable for our podcast.
Are those your sunglasses or Jess's sunglasses?
They're women's sunglasses.
Yeah,
but I probably purchased them.
It's okay. I think I accidentally bought a Hog's Breath tank top. That's a women's cut tank top.
Okay,
but
you love a tank top.
I do love a tank top, and when you got a rack like me, hey man, show them.
While I'm putting the shorty with the line.
Show them off
in my mouth.
Show them off. Yeah, I made the mistake of wearing a white tee today in the sweat. It's gross today. Anyway, you want a podcast?
I'm ready.
Let's podcast. Let's podcast. It's just past 2:00 on a Thursday. You know what that means. We are live on YouTube thanks to The Butcher's Market. Check them out online, thebutchersmarket.com. They've got everything you need for your summer grilling needs. You go into the pool, you want to show it. You want to win the pool grill off. You go to The Butcher's Market.
So that's a thing for your neighborhood? There's a grill at your pool?
Yeah, we got 2 grills.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we got 2 gas grills at Northbrook that we do. And Rick and I like to win the grill off. We make sure that we're putting the finest meats on the grill.
Are you even allowed to participate in that with your advantage?
Yeah, I think
Thanks to The Butcher's Market.
Thanks to The Butcher's Market.
Check them out over at Lake Boone. Check them out at their home base on Millbrook and Falls of the News. Just go check them out. Discover something for your weekend cookout.
That's right, Davis. StreamYard's working today. We're actually live, unlike last Thursday.
Was that last week?
That was last Thursday when StreamYard had some sort of Google Cloud problem. But no, we're here at Longleaf Swine today. By all means, drop on by Longleaf Swine. It's hot. It's sweaty. You know what helps out with that? The OG Lite, which is available here at Longleaf Swine. Brunch is fantastic, too. Maybe you need to do a date. I mean,
brisket.
Yeah, brisket's good. They got salad. They got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
More importantly, they got OG Lite. By the way, speaking of OG Lite, I had a very humbling experience last night at Oakwood Pizza Box.
I like this story, actually. I like this.
So, go to Oakwood. They've got the beer fridge. Anthony's got some fancy Italian bottled beer that I texted you. It was pretty good, too. But I had an OG Lite while we were waiting. And there was a guy who rolls up to the beer fridge. And he grabs the OG Lite. If you're watching on YouTube today, he grabs the OG Lite. He's examining it. He's trying to figure out what's going on. What is this? I guess, we do label, thanks to our guys over at Bond Brothers.
Yeah.
It does say light lager. So it's telling you what kind of style it is. And he looks at it. He's looking at it for a good minute.
What do you think turned him off?
I don't know.
That's what's bothering you.
He put it back.
Because it wasn't the name recognition that bothered you. Because he didn't know.
No, he has no idea.
So it was just hey, this is interesting looking. It looks like a cigar.
Kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
So I rolled up to I was like.
Obviously from North Carolina.
Clearly. Yeah. And I wanted to tell the guy, I'm like, dude, it's a fantastic beer. But I didn't do the hard sell.
I was going to say, where the error is. That this is an EU.
How is it an EU?
That's where you are innocent bystander. Hey, do you like beer-flavored beer?
Yeah.
Well, I got the beer for you, sir.
And as I'm discovering today, because Whit does a fantastic job over at Pond.
Unbelievable job.
With OG Lite, as hot as it is today, and these beers are warming up quick, still drinkable warm. That's key.
Very drinkable.
That's key.
We are officially in Walnut Creek protocols here today.
We kind of are.
We are officially in. The beer goes in and it immediately sweats out.
It's got it. You got to drink it quick.
Immediately.
You got to drink it quick.
There is no absorption.
I do have an update.
So they really don't fucking count today.
I do have an update from Whit as to the next canning of OG Lite. Looks like we're going to be early July, so that's enough time for us. Everybody asks, what's our shtick when we go to ACC kickoff? You know what our shtick is this year?
Mm-hmm.
Free beer.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to bring some cases of OG Lite and go from there. Now, the question that I have, Joe, is how are you going to get to Charlotte?
For the football?
Yeah, for ACC kickoff in July.
We're not driving together?
I don't know, man. Thanks to Serena, looks like
that guy is.
Look at that fat man on a little bike. Yeah, Serena's just, she's walking home and she sees this man on a tiny bike. And it's like, wait a minute.
Wait a second.
What's
Fat
going
bottom
on here?
girls. We make the rockin' world go around. People like it when I sing. So.
I tell you what, though, man. I mean, you're zooming.
Good.
You're zooming right there.
I had a strong Lance Armstrong pedal there.
Now
Unenhanced though.
I was going to say, were you enhanced?
I did not shoot anyone. I didn't shoot any deer blood into my veins.
Now, I think it's also important to play that clip of you on the bike going from our palatial Eford Studios on Fayetteville Street here to Longleaf Swine for tax purposes.
Yeah.
See? Use it for work.
Expenses. Hey, man, I'm saving you $15 every time we use the OG bike.
From like not even an e-bike. Nice job.
No, listen. If you're going to get a bike and you use one of those e-bikes,
Yeah.
you fuck straight off. You got to use a real bike.
From Ken, I recall Ovi is not supporting this bike
Correct.
in the past. He has
Correct.
now switched after seeing how cool. No.
He's still not supporting it, Ken.
Whoa, Ken. No, let's not.
He's still consistent.
Let's not confuse me being amused by seeing Giglio on the bike labor down Morgan Street to get to Longleaf Swine. Let's not get crazy now.
I always hear the Wicked Witch of the West in my ear when
Anyway, we have a fun show for you. We have a lot to get into today. Mostly college football. Yeah, we do. We do, man. Come on now. From Serena, who's here. She's hanging out right there. Big jigsaw energy. Wow. Anyway, no, Matt Brown, extra points, is going to drop on by. I talked to him earlier to hit on a couple of different things, including NIL and how everybody's ready for
revenue
NIL.
share. Yeah.
Private equity. Is it going to ruin everything?
No
and
doubt.
of course, he is the FOIA king. So what's going on with the Stephen Belichick contract over at UNC? We might have an update for you on that after we run the Matt Brown conversation.
Okay.
Also, he's going to be in town for podcast festival Night Zero, along with our guy Michael Felder.
We've turned this into a 2-day bonanza, haven't we?
We have. It's going to be
us.
We're going to be at Bob Brothers East Side on Friday, August 22nd, the night before we do the podcast.
Is that in Cary?
That's in Cary.
Okay.
It's a cool spot, and your ticket includes an OG Lite.
Ooh.
So let's go. And, of course, we're going to talk to Richard Johnson from Split Zone Duo in a little bit. He'll be here with the rest of the crew for the podcast festival.
Richard's great, but I don't know how his nom de guerre is not Dick.
Take it up with him.
I will.
He might have a burner account for all we know.
Double Dick.
Just saying. I'm sure he's much like Ovaries. I'm sure he's
Never
heard that before. He's never heard that before.
Never.
Oh, you think you're the first dude to say Joe Ovaries? I'm sure Richard has gotten the same thing. So we'll talk to them about a few things, including actual football with Richard.
We did have an
actual football conversation. Actual football
kind
conversation.
of proud of us, actually.
I know, right? Now, what's interesting about college football, this week we come to find out, this is from Brett McMurphy on Twitter, conference commissioners have decided to, quote unquote, start over on determining the 2026 college football playoff format, sources said. Big Ten and SEC initially wanted 4 automatic qualifiers, with 2 each in the ACC and the Big 12. However, ACC and Big 12 pushed back. SEC coaches later publicly did not support 4 automatic qualifiers, instead preferring 5 AQs plus 11 to get to 16 for an at-large format 16-team playoff. The SEC wants more value given to strength of schedule metrics, something CFP executives discussed in today's meetings. However, a source cautioned, even if strength of schedule is supposed to carry more weight with the committee, it still boils down to their opinions on who they think are the best teams. Deadline for the 2026 CFP is December 1st. This is followed up by a Ross Dellinger piece that I was reading earlier today at Yahoo Sports, in that, and I love that they do these things at the Biltmore. They're in the they were in North Carolina.
I'm sorry, who's there?
Oh, like all these guys, like all the power commissioners were at the Biltmore, just living their best life, right? Spending money. Anyway,
hey, they're helping Western North Carolina.
I'm not going to knock it. Whoa, live, folks, live. Hopefully everybody's okay. I haven't even dropped any sort of hot takes yet, so hopefully everybody's okay. So anyway. Point being, reading the Ross Dellinger piece, this meeting that took place to further negotiate, the way that he's positioned it is that they've hit the reset button.
Okay.
And that they are looking at a 2026 format that is no different than the format we have right now. They're going to stick with 12. Now, they've messed around with the seeding. That was something that they did agree to. I think most people
for this year, yeah.
I think most people are okay with the way they're going to go about the seeding. That makes complete sense. But in terms of the format, people want this thing to grow, but they can't agree. What I find most interesting in all of this is the fact that Greg Sankey did not get what he wanted. I think after all the bluster, it wasn't Brett Yormark of the Big 12. It wasn't Jim Phillips. It wasn't this cooked up idea that they had coordinated press conferences. I think the part that I'm starting to see in clearer focus is the fact that the coaches told Greg Sankey, buddy, we
have a better chance at 5-11.
We have way more chances to do this. And ultimately, the thing that has also been bothering me a lot, and Dimitri and I talk about this some in OG on Business, mostly about how Greg Sankey doesn't really care about competition. He only cares about creating shareholder value. That's like the only thing he ultimately cares about, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that the coaches finally got to the commissioner and said, nah, man, this is not how it's going to work. Now, they got until December 1st. And at the end of the Ross Dellinger piece, he said they
bought themselves a year with this format.
They bought themselves this year, but apparently if they're going to do anything for 2026, they have to decide it by December 1st. That's still plenty of time, man.
Yeah.
We still got 6 months to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I think what they're doing is a little bit of a cooling off period so that we actually get around to what will end up being the case, a 16-team format that's 5 plus 11. That's probably where we're going to end up on this. Now,
I honestly, I wouldn't hate it if they did a gap stop at 14. I would not. In the sense that I like those top two teams being rewarded.
Okay.
Because that's the NFL format. 14. It's just not together, right? The top seeds in each AFC, NFC get a bye.
Mm-hmm.
I like that team is rewarded and the other teams have to play.
That's
I
fair.
do like that format. I have some hope that they could explore that idea. I understand the ship has probably sailed on that. But once you go to 16, now you're square. There's no bye. There's no advantage. There's no advantage to being number one.
Here's the real issue with the 5 plus 11.
Unless they ACC tournament that thing up.
They might.
Which they could.
They might.
Actually, it's the Big East who originated that. But
they might do that.
Double bye.
At issue also seems to be the Big Ten wanting everybody to have 9
They're going to do that,
games.
by the way.
What's that?
They're going to
do
double bye. Yeah. They won't go to a straight 16-team bracket. You watch.
Well,
maybe that's what they're reevaluating.
Okay.
In my opinion, you have to reward the top teams.
Yes.
Right now, you have 4 teams that get a bye. I'm screaming into this microphone. I apologize.
It's okay. You've had a few.
Right now, there's an advantage to finishing in the top 4.
Yes.
You get a bye, a true bye. If you go to 16 under a normal bracket, you're squaring it. It's a multiple of 4.
But you're not thinking about it in TV terms.
I'm not. Now, it's also
double bye gives you more inventory.
And it's also football.
Yes.
So there is going to be a push and pull there. I'm thinking of it in terms of 14. You're still in a 12-team. You're still in a 16-team bracket. You're just giving 2 of those teams a bye. That's how the NFL does it. That's how I would do it. But they could Big East tournament this thing and say, we're going to give our top 4 seeds a double bye into the quarterfinals. And here you are.
Here's the real question. Do you care about equal conference slates? As in 9 conference games in the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC? Because that's where, according to Dellinger's piece, the Big Ten is putting its foot down on making sure that, and they can scuttle this thing. Because remember, the Big Ten and the SEC are ultimately the ones who decide this.
Correct.
So if the SEC and the Big Ten can't get on the same page about the amount of conference games, and as we've talked about with creating shareholder value, it's the one thing that Greg Sankey still knows he has in terms of leverage, that 9th conference game.
Yeah, no, the folly here is the Big Ten thinks their 9th game has the same value as the SEC's 9th game.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It does not.
No.
And again, this gets us back to how would the SEC add an NC State? How would the SEC add a Duke? Well, they would want a Patsy in football, Carolina as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. At the risk of spoiling OG on Business, is that already out?
No, it'll come out later today.
Okay. Well, I disagree with you guys in the sense that I don't think teams will participate in their conference championship the way that it's currently set up.
Okay.
In football.
What do you mean current, like as it is now?
Yeah, like if I was SMU, I would not have gone to Charlotte.
Yeah, I wouldn't go.
So
you got to incentivize.
I agree with Sankey in that I'd rather see the top 4 teams go over here or whatever number works out to be.
Yeah.
You go over here, give me that 2-game bonanza jamboree.
Oh,
in Atlanta,
no, you and I are in agreement on that.
And let the top 3 sit over here and say, you guys are in.
Yep.
You're not playing. We're not jeopardizing it. I think the concept of conference championships has now become outdated.
Absolutely.
So, again, I give credit to both. We never give credit to Jim Phillips for anything. When we see him in Charlotte, I will properly put the knee pads on and give him credit. They got SMU in this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure SMU deserved to be in this year. He got him in. And if I were SMU, I definitely would not have played in that football game in Charlotte. I would have pulled a Florida State women's soccer and said, fuck you. My team's on the field.
Yeah.
I'm over here.
Housekeeping. Big thanks to Inovana. Check them out online at inovana.com. Green cleaning solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
Are you okay? You're like waving people down.
I'm waving you down because I feel like we need an impromptu NC State basketball segment.
Okay.
Our guy JC Zemble's here.
Yeah. You should have texted me he was coming.
I didn't know.
I would have set up a third mic.
He's got a lot of things going on.
I understand.
But we have stuff in the can, so I said we do that and then we set it up.
We'll see about that.
We got time.
We'll see about that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about setting up more stuff. I don't know. You know, I'm the on-site engineer.
Well, today I am the onsite engineer, actually. I fixed the mix minus.
You did. You said you're like, Ovies, stop worrying about those dang Razor cameras and just use the freaking Mac camera. I'm like, yeah, the white balance is better on these cameras. Anyway, while we're outside. Anyway, big thanks to Inovana. Check them out online at inovana.com. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. We got the summer pop-up shop up right now. I could use right now the tank top. I could use the Ovies and Giglio tank top right now, or the sleeveless shirt, if you want to call it. It's a tank top.
I was about to fight with Steve Young in the comments. I'm putting these back on. No fighting.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't looked at the comments. Anyway, so go to OG399shop.com. That'll take you to our basics shop. It should redirect you there. If it doesn't redirect you there, just use the direct link that's in the podcast description and the YouTube description. And we got all sorts of goodies right now. As I mentioned, we got the sleeveless. We got the Comfort Colors pocket tee. We brought back the Drunk Wolf, which, shocker, is our top seller so far. So go get those. That comes in a sleeveless option. And, of course, we've got the hats. In the OG hat vault, we've got the golf hat. It comes in green. It comes in blue. It comes in navy.
That's not blue. That's Tar Heel blue. Carolina blue.
You know, God must have been a Tar Heel.
Clearly.
Except that one night.
Except that one time that ECU put 70 on you.
Except that one night. Anyway, go to OGTriangleMediaShop.com and go check that out. Big thanks to our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. As I mentioned, I was grilling out this past weekend. I did not have any issues whatsoever while I was grilling because Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority had come out earlier in the week to take care of that. So head out to bugsbite.com. You can bundle and save when you get the outside of your house treated with Mosquito Authority and the inside of your house with Pest Authority. It is so freaking hot that when I'm done here, I might head to Two Roosters.
Why wouldn't you?
Hot
or cold.
It is a day to cool off. Ice cream's the best way to do it, and they have wonderful flavors. Head on over to tworoosters.com to see their rotating flavors. It's the fan favorites that are returning this month. In July, we will have our
12 days.
Our peanut butter extravaganza dropping over at Two Roosters. Apparently, we have a photo shoot for this.
We do.
You have that day. You just have to eat ice cream and look good. Think you can do it?
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Look what I'm doing to this spoon. Anyway, go to tworoosters.com. That's a sell on the ice cream, let me tell you. So go to tworoosters.com, and, of course, in July, we will have our flavors. Life is about balance, okay? So you've eaten all this ice cream. You got to counteract it some way or another. Roughage, baby. Roughage. That's where Happy and Hail comes in. Happy and Hail makes it super convenient with their app. You're running around trying to get some errands done. You still got to eat lunch, maybe get yourself a smoothie or something like that. Download the app. Use our promo code OG25 for a one-time 25% off, and it'll be ready for you to pick up when you want it. So, again, download that app today and save 25% when you use that promo code OG20. We're drinking OG Lite right now, which is fantastic. We will be tapping a keg of OG Lite at Whitaker and Hamer's Shady's in July. You having more to drink?
Shorties don't count.
Yes, they do,
You
Joe.
get, so passive-aggressive about my beverage intake. Please.
Well,
they're shorties.
They don't. No, they do count at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. If you say so. Well, Jess is here. Actually, you know what? I want to see you after a few shorties on the bike.
Yeah.
Can I film that? We'll make sure Serena gets that.
Yes.
As you labor back up Fayetteville Street to make that thing happen.
Let's go hill.
Fair
Not
enough.
this way. I cut through the nook.
And
My new nook.
actually,
We'll tell the parking gods.
I was going to say you can't get popped. Actually, that's a question for Whitaker and Hamer.
Ooh.
Can you get popped on a little pedal bike?
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
I love it when you act like I'm not like 235 pounds. This is a 6-ounce beer, dude. Dear Lord.
Joe, I love you, but you're the fucking lightweight in this dynamic.
Yeah, because you have a wooden fucking leg. That's not on me.
I'm just
That's
saying,
on you.
You are
It's
a lightweight.
half of a beer.
You're a lightweight.
I've had no liquor.
Oh, okay.
I've had 2 half of a beers. And you're like, oh my God.
No, I worry about you because I know how things happen.
Alcoholics Anonymous. Giglio's had 2 shorties.
You've had more than 2 shorties.
I have not.
You've had more. No, I'm
I had a
saying
course. I had a banquet.
you've had 2 cores. And this is your, what, 3rd shorty?
Second.
Okay. Just saying. Anyway, if you have questions like, hey, what happens if I get on my little pedal bike after a few shorties? Whitaker and Hamer's going to tell you, no, those count. That's legal.
Well, they will tell you they can.
That's legal. That's where they're going to help you out. So check out Whitaker and Hamer. Go to their website, wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. Now, while we are at Longleaf Swine, technically live today, this is live to tape, if you will. That's what we call it in the business. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Matt Brown. Extra Points is the newsletter. If you're interested in the business of college sports, I highly recommend you subscribe to this newsletter. I've been a subscriber for a hot minute. Matt, what's going on, man?
Hey, it's great to be here. If this is live to tape, does that mean I can swear?
Yeah, of course. No, we're a podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Well, you never know. I don't know what FCC compliant station is going to simulcast this later. Okay.
FCC compliance on this podcast. I just have to let YouTube know. Yeah, there could be some foul language on this thing.
Sure.
So
I don't want anybody to get demonetized or to get you in trouble with Copiers Plus or anything. It's good to know.
Yeah, we don't need any of that stuff. And depending when we come back from this interview, Giglio might be a few rumplements in and cursing up a storm. I don't know. It remains to be seen after we're done airing this portion of the podcast. So I wanted to bring you on today for a variety of reasons. But the thing I want to let people know right now is that we get the Sports Podcast Festival taking place. Throughout the month of June, you can go to therialto.com, and we got a BOGO happening right now. Buy one at full price. Use the promo code SPF25. You'll get your second ticket for $30. However, that's on August 23rd. But we got a Sports Podcast Festival 0 taking place the Friday before at Eastside, Bond Brothers Eastside in Cary. You and Michael Felder are going to be there.
Yep.
That's going to be a cheap ticket. I think it's $10. That $10 ticket gets you OG Lite and access to shirtless Felder and you talking about the business of college sports.
I haven't committed to wearing a shirt either, honestly.
All right.
We're gonna play it by ear. We'll see how many OGs I have, and what happens from there. $10.
Hey man, I don't know how you handle 4.5% beer, but I guess we're gonna find out. We
are gonna find out. Probably not super well.
So all that, if you want more information on that, go check our social channels. Obviously, you can be part of OG fans as well at OGTriangleMedia.com. We got the link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions as well. So we were talking earlier about the college football playoff format, and all of this is essentially down to creating shareholder value. This is not about competition anymore. Right. This is about creating shareholder value. So to take this further, where are we on private equity and college programs? Because we're seeing what's happening with the Lakers. We're seeing that this private equity business start to creep into professional sports. Florida State was the one who broke the seal on this when they were saber rattling about leaving the ACC and funding their athletics departments. So as ever, and you wrote about this a couple of weeks ago in relation to House, these programs are all finding ways to squeeze the most amount of money they can. And private equity seems to be the next thing. So where exactly are we on this? And is there too much fear mongering as to what this could be doing for college sports?
It's a really good question because like last weekend you had NACTA, which is the gigantic athletic department conference palooza. Thousands of people that work in this industry or sell to this industry all descend upon Orlando to talk about NIL Go and Deloitte and other serious business. Mm-hmm. And while we were all there, Sports Business Journal comes out with the story that Elevate had entered into a private equity arrangement with 2 Power 4 schools for it was a lot of money, like eight figures, I think. And then later, Sportico reports that it's UCLA and Penn State. And while I was there, I talked to people that work in both those athletic departments who swore up and down that they had not done that, and there were public denials. And what I don't know is whether the schools are freaking out about the words private equity, even though that arrangement didn't actually involve equity, as I understand it. I don't know if there's some pushback from elsewhere on campus or what's going on, but it does speak to the radioactivity of that title. And most of the proposals that are circulating around college sports right now, whether they're the ones that people in the ACC have talked to, or in this market, or Florida State, or elsewhere across the country, most of them are not equity in the sense that like private equity buying a stake in a retail store might be, because you can't buy 18% of North Carolina or 18% of Florida State University. You can potentially buy a stake in a new company that controls their athletic revenues. Or you could do something that's basically a souped up version of what most Power 4 schools do right now with their multimedia rights, which says, you give me a lump sum guaranteed cash payment or a loan at whatever percent, and we're going to split the revenue of this next commercial venture. And maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's a bad idea. But variations of that have been happening for 20 years. And I don't think that is necessarily cause for the world to be on fire.
So what I need to, and you talk about the radioactivity around private equity, and the reason why there is radioactivity around that is because I have yet to see an example where private equity has made something better. All we ever hear are stories about private equity wringing dry whatever is left of something and then leaving the carcass for somebody else to pick up. It's
and particularly in the media industry. Like if you are somebody who spent time at a radio station or a newspaper and you are not immediately skeptical of private equity, my brother, what are you doing? Like, these are the bad guys in our world.
Yes. And, you know, private equity does not care about feeling good about having a name on a building, right? Yeah. That's the booster class is a funny class because you can play to their heart. You can play to their legacy. You give us $10 million, $20 million, this center will bear your name and people will think about you all the time. Private equity does not care about that stuff. They care about return on investment. They'll look at your budget and go, can you explain to me why the strength and conditioning coach is getting paid this amount? Can you explain to me why you're traveling this way? You actually just came out with this today in terms of operating budgets for college basketball. And I'm looking at those operating budgets and it's insane what is involved for men's and women's basketball. Private equity would look at that and go, do you need a private jet? You know, can't you bus? That's what private equity does. It is not a good thing.
Not only that, but private equity is also going to look in there and say, do we need women's soccer?
Right.
Do we need rowing? And I think for the fan experience, it's also, do we need to have the students sit here when we could sell field level suites for $10,000 a pop where the students are? Do we need to have tickets available at this lower price point? Because the professional model is built around generally smaller arenas, smaller amount of attendance, and more corporate engagement. That's why when you go to the Super Bowl or the college football playoff championship or playoffs in a lot of professional sporting events, it feels very different from a high level college game. It's a different crowd. You know, like the NFL used to be in the 70s, where people were still drinking tall boys and getting in fights, not necessarily having the branded experience. So that might be good for the bottom line. Yeah. But our relationship as fans and as stakeholders in this world is different than how we are with the Hurricanes or the Panthers, than how we might be for ECU.
But this is true of all sports right now. I know June Lee recently wrote about this in the New York Times, and I've been meaning to talk about this. And his thesis is that without the ability to grow your sports, professional and in college, you are now, as he put it, I think he called it mining fandom. That's basically what you're doing. I think Ethan Strauss wrote about this recently. He called it fracking the pie. That's how he referred to it. But the thesis basically is the same thing, that with the inability to grow your sport, but you need the line to keep going up, well, how do you do it? And that is to wring out as much as you can about what is left, including fans, and why the fan experience continues to get worse. And it's only going to continue this way when it comes to college athletics, which is weird because unlike professional sports, you have this attachment to your college because you spent 4 years there, and that becomes your whole identity for a lot of people.
Sure.
And when they don't love you back, this starts to affect other things down the line.
You're absolutely right. And the thing is, I think almost every athletic director realizes that. And a lot of people that work in this industry realize that. But if you are an AD or a university president or a conference commissioner, you are not likely to be there in 6 years. Your job is to make line go up now so you can pay for the things and potentially cut the ribbons or get the NACTA trophy or win the Director's Cup or anything else. And you and I are still going to be here. We're
anywhere, man. I
right.
have no other skill. Like, this is what I do.
Same. Right. I'm not a good enough carpenter to quit this stupid hustle yet. So this is
right.
this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for our kids. And that, I think, is the potential challenge, because you might recognize choices I'm making today will make it less likely that someone who's 14 years old now will give us $25,000 in 25 years. But you are not incentivized to think about that. And in fact, you might be penalized to do so. Like, there are things that people in the ACC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 could do to potentially grow college soccer, to grow volleyball, to grow baseball, or to grow, as I've written about a lot, the fan interest overseas or in other languages or in other markets, which is what the NFL is trying to do so aggressively right now, and what the EPL has done well and La Liga has done well. But that's planting flowers that won't grow next season.
Yeah.
And right now, everyone's staring down a $20 million hole in their budget, and they can't afford to wait for next season. They got to eat the seed corn now.
So that's where we transition to with the House settlement being approved. And you wrote about this, and it's something that I was bothered by in the framing, and how casuals look at this versus how we look at this when you talk to athletic directors. And again, you were just at that athletic directors week-long prom. When I saw the headlines that this changes college sports forever, it's like, well, where y'all been? I mean, we've seen so much radical change in the last 5 years because athletic departments who are on the ball know this stuff is coming and they've been preparing for it. And on top of that, once it's approved, and we're seeing this play out now, all sorts of states are kind of testing, what can be allowed, what cannot be allowed. You still don't know what's going on in Washington, D.C. when it comes to congressional guardrails. Even then, this is a sport that invented the bag man. So you're always going to find ways to work around those margins because that's the nature of college sports. So in a lot of ways, college sports had already changed before we got to this point. These schools already know what's going on. They've just been waiting for it to be approved so they can just go forward for whatever the next part of the frontier is, right?
That's exactly what I think. There were a couple of things that couldn't happen until this was all approved, but everybody in this market, whether you're in a Power 4 school or an American athletic school or a SoCon school or anybody, you have been prepping plans A, B, C, and D on how to operate in a house world since February. You've already sent out contracts to players months ago that were contingent upon this deal being set up. So like how you're distributing your cap money, a lot of that's already been done. You've already talked to Learfield and Playfly and begged for how we can go, throw a logo on something else we haven't sold before so we can make a little bit more money. There's some things that are going to be a little bit new. I don't think we necessarily know what the meta is for how to spend money on baseball, or whether there's, maybe some ways to overperform by zigging where other people are zagging. But now we already have conventional wisdom of how this money is going to be distributed. We understand the conventional wisdom of how the cap's going to be evaded. And shoot, like even before I hopped on here today, we already have a lawmaker in Michigan who's running for governor propose a bill saying maybe we should make it illegal for anybody in Michigan to comply with this thing. Like we're not where we're going to be yet. We are a step in that process, but we are fundamentally still waiting for more judges or lawmakers to decide where we're going to actually be. And both those groups have other things on their mind right now.
All right. Now we talk about what skills we have, right? Like, you need me to talk for an hour? Cool. I
Sure.
can talk for an hour. No big deal. You, sir, are the FOIA king, the Freedom of Information Act king. Giglio is not here right now because as we're recording this, he's dealing with some car issues. But Giglio, I'm going to speak on his behalf. He's been banging his head against North Carolina and FOIA requests, saying, it'll respond to him automatically. This has already been fulfilled, even though it hasn't.
Yep.
At issue is certain contracts. And one of them in particular would be Stephen Belichick's contract, not Bill's. I mean, we know what Bill's is. We've been obsessing over the buyout and all this other kind of stuff. We don't know Stephen's, though.
Why don't we know Steven's contract now? And if at this point, as of this conversation, June 19th, we still don't know the details of this, what would be the reasons behind that, as given understanding that all this stuff should be public?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons for it, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything nefarious. It's not common, but it does happen every year that some coaches, some assistant coaches, even occasionally ADs will go into a year without a signed contract. They might do this with a term sheet, which, if a FOIA clerk is being a real pain in the ass, they might say, well, you didn't ask for a term sheet. You didn't ask for a memorandum of understanding. You asked for a contract, and we don't have a contract. So sometimes there's that. And that might not be signed because sides are still negotiating. There might be tax reasons for it. These things happen. Hawaii's AD was in charge for 2 years and never had a contract. And with the old Florida State coach that came from Oregon that got fired, he didn't have a completely signed deal.
Oh, Willie Taggart didn't have it?
For part of it, that was part of the hang up about the buyout. Was there was just an MOU. So these things do happen. But also, if you wanted to avoid either public records or avoid a contract executing or starting on a particular date, one thing you could do is just not sign it. And that might be the coach or the AD or any other party to that deal might like a paper veto of some kind. So I don't want to speculate as to whether UNC is doing anything nefarious or if there's a very boring tax or paperwork or agent reason why that hasn't happened. But this does happen.
Yeah, let's just cut to the chase, though, because that issue is whether or not Stephen Belichick, given the uncertainty around Bill Belichick, how long is he going to be there? The speculation has always been, well, you bring Stephen Belichick here and set him up to be the coach in waiting. Now, you don't have to put that in Bill Belichick's contract. You don't have to put that in his contract. You could put that in Stephen Belichick's contract. And that's where I think the speculation leads to, because again, at issue, part of this whole back and forth has been, how does this look when Bill leaves?
Oh, sure.
So that's where I think the fascination.
You could decide not to put it in writing at all. You could just say during the negotiation period, this is my handshake deal. I'm saying it out loud. I'm not going to put it into anything that the OG show is going to FOIA or any of the other reporters around here.
Everybody's looking for this stuff.
The fascinating thing about this particular Belichick situation, and it's, I think, not dissimilar to the Deion Sanders situation at Colorado and at Jackson State, is that it's broken contained. So the people that are looking for this stuff, the people that are filing open records requests for anything involving Jordan, it's not just us, and it's not just the D1 ticker people, and it's not just nerds. It's NFL media, it's TMZ, it's this larger ecosystem. UNC has more resources to handle that kind of stuff, but most places don't when the world comes to you,
Now, college coaches, really, anybody in this business, we're catty, we're gossipy. I got to imagine that Bill Belichick and Jordan are a point of fascination in the ACC. I'm sure people were gossiping in Amelia Island during the ACC meetings most recently. Who's going to be dumb enough to talk about the Belichick-Jordan situation on state-owned communication?
God, I hope it's somebody in the ACC, because if it is, I filed all those requests for that exact thing. I think I'm waiting on. There's one more public ACC school I still need to file for, but I asked. Give me all of the emails. Give me all the text messages from coach university phones and coordinators that mentioned Bill, Jordan, or 6 other search terms for this. And I'm not doing this because I'm insinuating anything nefarious.
Sure.
But I think it's very funny.
I agree.
And if we can find, I know if I get it, I'm willing to structure this in a way to potentially protect which particular coordinator, because I want them to keep texting on their school university phones. But if I get something funny, I absolutely will publish it.
Hey, man, Athlon does a whole anonymous coaches talking about other teams in the preview mag, right? So who's to say?
Yeah. I know enough to know coaches in general are typically not big email people, but they do talk shit on phones. And I, for one, think America needs to be CC'd on some of those texts.
I can only imagine. I wonder if Dave Doran's into the meme games. He's even not, or he's screen grab, like the latest screen grab of an Instagram story from Jordan. I guess they're in Vegas, and they've got rings on, which there's like a Super Bowl ring, and she's wearing some sort of custom ring, and now people are wondering, oh, they're in Vegas? Maybe they're going to elope. This is where we are with Bill Belichick, man. This is where we are.
And you know what? I kind of appreciate this because this kind of story could not be more different from what I am equipped to cover or care about. Right? I'm barely on Instagram myself,
right?
But it's great because this is a pathway for the other normies in my life to participate in this. And then now we have something to talk about, right? Messy people on Instagram drama. That's the way my wife is online. Yeah. And I've said this several times. I think one of the best marriage bits of advice we could give to anybody is find a partner who is not online the same way that you are. Yeah. And this is a great story for that, where families and communities can come together and gawk in different ways. I appreciate that for North Carolina.
Kelly does not listen to the podcast, so I can say this. There are times where she knows she's married to a very online person. It's part of my job. Sure. So she'll say, "Did you see that such and such?" And then sometimes I just go, "Oh no, I didn't see that." To kind of keep the conversation going.
That's what you have to do. I do the same thing. If something was on the Reddit front page, I'm on the internet for a living. I'm sure I saw it, but I'm like, no, babe, I didn't. Please show it to me again.
I might have missed that. Yeah. All right, before we go, we talk about costs, and I feel like this is a good way to close the conversation. Bring it back to what we started with in relation to the college football playoff, because they're hung up right now, right? It was interesting that we got to a point where SEC coaches were pushing back on Greg Sankey, who I'm convinced actually doesn't like sports and is only there to create shareholder value, that they pushed back on these automatic qualifiers and everything else. So good on those SEC coaches for doing that. What I have a hard time reconciling, and I was reading Ross Dellinger's piece recently at Yahoo, where I didn't realize they were at the Biltmore they were here in the state. They were out at the Biltmore estate. That's not a cheap spot. You know, you were at this athletic directors conference, right? They go to Amelia Island and all that. You know, we're all freaking out about money, but man, do they love spending it just to meet and accomplish nothing. Stuff that I feel like probably could be solved in an email, you know?
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if maybe more of these conferences or meetings happened at like the conference center right next to O'Hare Airport.
Right.
Or you know, the beautiful. I'm not saying you have to go to Days Inn or Motel 6 or some of these cash only places. But you can sit down and talk with the rest of us middle class schlubs somewhere or meet on campus. You're right, and it is a very funny thing that I've learned from covering this industry.
There are some not easy to get to either. It's not like you just fly direct, you grab an Uber, and you're there at the conference. Hell, I'll even accept going to Disney World, right? Sure. But like, it's not easy to get to the Biltmore.
Or Amelia Island for that matter. I get that's part of it, right? But a shocking thing now that I've been in this business for a little while is to learn that there are some things that you and I might think are completely standard, and of course you should invest in, that schools and particularly athletic departments get very penny wise, pound foolish about, and are terrified to spend any money. Mm-hmm. And then there's some things where they will drop $45,000 and not even think about it because that's the way it's been for the last 20 years. Yeah. Some of that's with executive and administrator and coach compensation at the high end. Some of that is with some of the software that gets sold to run recruiting and run back end operations, which is a lot of money. Yep. And then when it comes to building a more sophisticated revenue operation, it's crickets. Like you know the pro world even better than I do. If we brought in some people that spent time with the Hurricanes and took them to the median Power 4 college athletic department to say, like, do you know who your fans are? Do you know who actually gives you money? Do you know how to reach out to those people again in 4 months? Anybody in the NHL's mind would be blown and compare the NHL to the NFL, which I think is even eons ahead of that. Yeah, it's shocking. This is a huge business that is still in many ways a mom and pop shop.
Yeah, I got to imagine that Zach with Teamworks is making millions upon millions of dollars for that back end that you talked about. All that stuff is even getting automated to a certain point. You talk about compensation. At some point, I'm going to wonder when CEOs realize, wait a minute, I'm having all these AI agents do things for me. What's my value?
Oh, we never get to that point, right? They're trying to automate themselves, but it's going to be the people that make $60,000 first.
Right. I was going to say, I'm automating all of my work, but I still get my CEO package. Not so much.
Can we make Chat GB Word Manual somewhere to do some of these things? Like maybe.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the ACC network is going to have an AI version of Mark Packer do the show going forward. I have no idea.
That would be sad. Please don't do that.
No, he's retiring. He's retiring. Today's his last show, so salute to Mark Packer.
Sure.
Who's to say they just don't dump all of his shows into an LLM and then they just spit it out? Well, we're all replaceable, Matt. We're all replaceable.
Yeah, I'm not a big science fiction guy, but I do remember reading Neuromancer, and my takeaway was, I hope when I'm dead that they let me have the dignity to stay dead, and not build this thing again. Right? There's so much of this is what's the joke? Like the authors of the book Don't Build the Torrent Nexus have now partnered with the firm building the Torrent Nexus.
Yes,
Great.
The CEO, the futurist CEO reads this book. It's highly, highly influential in his life. And the book's point is, do not build this thing. Yeah. I'm going to build this thing. And we'll close on that. Matt Brown, Extra Points. Go check out the newsletter. Great stuff as always. He will be here August 22nd. Bond Brothers East Side in Cary, along with Michael Felder from Hand in the Dirt podcast. It's going to be a good time. There will be OG Lite flowing and more fascinating conversations like this. Matt, we appreciate it, man.
Of course. Anytime, my friend.
All right, let me unlock everything here. Get back on because we're live. I'm just doing this all on the fly, folks.
Okay.
Welcome. Anyway, JC Zemble, Wolfpack Central, hanging out with us right now. Real quick before we talk a little Wolfpack and do some ads and whatnot, I did want to follow up on the conversation we were having with Matt Brown.
Okay.
Extra Points related to the FOIA request around Stephen Belichick's contract. Do we have an update on that, Joe?
So David McKenzie, on our behalf, checked in as to why we haven't received Stephen Belichick's contract.
Yeah.
David McKenzie, lawyer, was told that the reason we don't have a copy of Stephen Belichick's contract is because it hasn't been signed by Bubba Cunningham.
Yeah.
So I texted Bubba Cunningham today, and I said, hey, here was the reason given as to why we don't have Stephen Belichick's contract. He said, I will check on that. As to if you're looking for a clause that says that Stephen is a coach in waiting, that is not something that is in his contract. And he added, that is not something we've even discussed.
Yeah.
So given our relationship with Bubba, I have no reason to think why he would lie to us.
All right. That puts a pin in that. We're done with that.
As soon as we get
Well, I mean, you'd like to see the contract, but as we talked about with Matt,
I believe him. I asked him about Bill Belichick's contract. He said he wasn't in there. Your boy thought he made a little bit of a mistake, so we FOIA'd Stevens, and here we are. But he says, "Hey, man, it's not in there."
And to Matt Brown's point, though, sometimes it doesn't have to be in the contract either.
That's fair.
So there's that.
That's fair.
All this stuff is all led to speculation. JC, what up, man?
Hello.
Am I a Disney adult?
Yeah. I would categorize you as one. I would think so. I mean,
you are a Disney adult.
I have no qualms being a Disney adult. It's, the happiest place on earth.
Fair enough.
So why not?
All right. So we brought you on. Thank you for dropping by Longleaf as we're doing this OG Live. Little impromptu.
He was over at Dave Doran's football camp today.
Oh, okay.
Gathering intel.
Sweaty.
Yeah.
Very sweaty. Oh, wait. NC State still is playing football this
They
upcoming
have
season?
a football team, yeah.
We'll talk about that with Richard Johnson a little bit later, but I didn't realize they were still playing football over at NC State. I thought it was all basketball. Basketball school, JC.
The thing that's fascinating about how the basketball calendar has become, the last week of March, April, and May, it's all about the transfer portal and finishing off the roster. Though State has extended that a little bit into June for basketball.
Yeah.
And then in football recruiting, there's like 45 official visitors just in the month of June. So, that 3-month period basically forms the roster for both sports these days.
All right, well, let's start here with the news. NC State, as I'm looking on Wolfpack Central, they've landed a 6'10", 270-pound center, Scotty Adube, from Wyoming via Southern Illinois. Now, JC, where on the roster would there be room for a big this late in the game?
Yeah, what happened?
Is it because they lost somebody?
They lost Paul Mabaya, who is 6'11", 250 with a massive wingspan. raw on offense, but he does three things particularly well. It just won't be at NC State.
Okay.
He dunks, he blocks shots, and he rebounds.
Okay.
You know, nothing really outside of like 6 feet. Not a great free throw shooter, but he would have come in and been that shot blocker. You know, actually to go into your language, he probably would have been a better shot blocker than BJ Anya and Manny Bates.
Ooh.
Like he has that type of potential.
You mean skinny BJ? You mean
Was
DC
there-
BJ?
Well, you know, what was there, skinny BJ? But, you know, that's his gift. He has like a 7'8" wingspan. It's freakish.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, he's now on the open market again. He had signed with State. You know,
There were some visa issues.
Yeah.
They finally had those
Who knows?
resolved.
So
And-
they get this kid.
Well,
So-
no, wait.
Okay.
Don't jump the bit now, sir. So Mbaya was supposed to be the guy who came in, you know, and I even tweeted, NC State shit is dead
Yeah.
because they this is a kid who never shows up if NC State shit still exists. But there was a cryptic tweet this week from NC State's general manager, Andrew Slater, and he was retweeting about the transfer portal and revenue sharing in 2026 and whatnot. And his retweet was, to put it simply, yesterday's price may not be today's price.
I think that was more directed towards the high school players because
Okay.
they're going to learn probably, maybe, based on the house settlement, that some of the extraordinary salaries that high school players were getting, it may not be that way for the class of 2026.
Okay.
You know, like, you know, you always talk about AJ DeBanza in the triangle,
Yeah.
Caleb Wilson at you know, UNC, obviously
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg at Duke. I mean, they picked the perfect time to come into college basketball.
Yeah.
You know, this was a golden moment. Now, will it continue? We'll see. You know, I was shocked at the numbers that were being thrown around this spring. Like we're talking about,
Should you be, though? Well,
I mean, guys that
how
were,
can you be shocked about things we don't know?
Is State Hoops 14 mil, you think?
no,
Is that number real?
no, that's more 10 to 11.
Okay.
Okay,
For
that's the
NC
other
State.
thing too. We can't actually because it's not
But
like the
it's a
NFL.
guess.
It's not like the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like we were dealing with this with the Carolina Hurricanes. I know what they're working with.
Yeah.
There's a salary cap. There's contracts. It's all publicly available. All those types of things. We don't know any of this stuff when it comes to college basketball. So to me, I think all the numbers. What's the word that you like to use, Joe? Fugazi.
Mhm.
I think all the numbers that get thrown out there on social media and whatnot are fugazi. We saw this with college football too, like Mac Brown acting like a freaking message board poster.
Oh, about Drake
Like,
May.
I heard Drake May. They offered him $5 million. I'm like, dude, you sound like you're on IC's premium board right now, dude. And I think the same thing is occurring with NC State basketball and Carolina basketball. The way that I would view this now is twofold. One, the number is going to be whatever the number is, and it's going to be portrayed a couple of different ways. The first one is the one that I have a problem with. It's the, wow, you paid that much for that roster? Well, when
Oh,
we don't,
Carolina was 14
it's not just
mil.
Carolina, by the
No,
way.
I know, but I was
Which gets
confused
to
with
my
Carolina
second
State.
point.
Okay.
Which gets to my second point.
Okay.
Which the first point is, wow, I can't believe they're paying this amount of money. Well, you should, because it's the Wild West and we don't know what the market is. And we're literally watching the market shape itself in real time. We've never experienced this before. So let's see how this plays out before we start making grand proclamations about stuff. Which gets to my second point, to Joe's thing about Carolina's number. You put that number out there because you want to put your coach in a bad spot. That's how I view that with Hubert Davis specifically at Carolina. With NC State, I think it's more – with NC State and Will Wade, I think we're in a weird kind of point, mostly in we've never – I have to catch myself and be consistent. I'm sitting here banging the table for college programs to become modernized. NC State is becoming modernized under Will Wade. It might not make sense to me, like no knock to Aura. We've had people texting us like, hey, man, I saw Aura, the whatever. And I'm like, cool. That means nothing to me, but it might mean something to recruits, the program itself. I'm seeing how they're positioning themselves at NC State with social media. Some might call it cringy,
There's an orchestrated effort.
but there's an orchestrated effort that I've never seen from NC State basketball before. So at one hand, I go, it ain't for me, but it's not meant to be for me.
No, it's not.
And on top of that, I can't sit here and say, hey, NC State, step your game up. Will Wade and the crew are doing exactly that. Again, it's not for me, though. So you an older NC State fan, might watch this stuff and think it's kind of cringy. But on the flip side, you have to correct yourself like I have when it comes to talking about college basketball in general. No, this is what it has to be. So that's kind of what I'm viewing with NC State right now.
See, I look at it like this. Louisville set the blueprint last year. How do we all feel about Pat Kelsey a year later, right? They put him in a position to succeed. They bought a lot of good players. He made it work. They made a run. They got second in the ACC.
Yeah.
Everybody loves.
They made a run.
Well,
They made a run. All right, I'm gonna go get my power strip. So y'all keep talking.
This year, State wants to put Will Wade in the very best position to have a successful first year, create momentum, have the money keep moving in, right? You got to have the money moving.
Yes.
Money doesn't go in if the team is so-so.
No, you're right.
Right? So they put him in a position to succeed financially. Obviously, he's a proven winner over his, all his stops. He has enough talent to make the NCAA tournament. Then we'll see what happens. As Joe likes to say, you have to get there. And if you keep getting there over and over and over, eventually you'll break through, right? So that's a lot of that perception is like, you got to give your coach, because I don't know if these coaches have the window that we used to see.
They don't.
2-3 years, and it might be like, oh, let's find a new coach. And that's not just at NC State. That's everywhere.
What do you make of State's roster as we sit here on June 19th?
I like what they could be defensively. I
Okay.
wish they had a little more shot blocker, but they have some guys that are proven defensive players. Terrence Arsenault played at Houston. You don't play if you don't defend at Houston.
Yeah, the Chiefs not playing you.
Trey Holloman played at Michigan State. You don't defend if you don't
You won't
play
get on
for
the court.
Tom Izzo.
Yeah, with
So
Izzo.
these are veteran guys who've been through the wars and seen a lot of wins over the last few years. Van Allen Lubin, even though he's had this crazy college career of 4 schools in 4 years, he has been at least, what you get from him.
So they overpaid for Van Allen Lubin, right?
Maybe, I don't know.
Because they knew they were going to lose him by one way or another.
If you had to get a center, and it's
Right.
supply and demand in June is not, it's conducive to players. If you're an available good player in June, you have leverage.
I'm going to start calling him Ven Lubin because based on the social media clips I've seen, he goes by Ven Lubin. So I'm starting there. I'm going to pull a Mark Gottfried on you there. Darian Williams, he's the bus driver?
I think so.
Okay.
So Darian Williams is a guy that was not highly recruited out of high school.
Okay.
He was a Sacramento area kid.
You're also saying he's not as big as I think he is.
Well, he measured at 6'4.5" and 236 pounds at the NBA Combine with his shoes off.
Okay.
I know there's people who say, well, they don't play with their shoes off.
Sure.
So, but what he is, in essence, and this is how Texas Tech used him, is high pick and roll, get a smaller player on him, and then he bullies them to the rim or he pops a jumper. And that's the essence. In our generation, you would call that like Mark Aguirre or maybe Adrian Dantley. I'm saying they're going to be like, I'm not saying he's going to be that kind of player, but that 6'5", 6'6", bit of a matchup problem. So he's a guy who, when they needed big shots at Texas Tech, he wasn't afraid. Didn't mean he always make them, but he wasn't afraid. And being a part of a bus driver is in the last minutes of close games, you can't be afraid.
You also need to be the closer.
So they'll probably run the offense a lot through him.
He's the most important player they've
He's the most important player they have. And, the question that I think is going to be fascinating to watch is the battle at shooting guard, where they have a freshman, Matthew Abel, who can really shoot the piss out of the ball. And then Paul McNeil is coming back.
I think Paul McNeil's out. Have you seen a freshman promoted in the way that they have promoted Matt Abel since Dennis Smith?
At State?
Yeah. I have seen an orchestrated effort by NC State and Will Wade to promote Matthew Abel.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I don't think Kevin had anybody that was of that caliber.
No.
There was a lot of buzz about Yurtsevin before he arrived, but
that
for
was
different
with
reasons.
That was with Dennis,
but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Then you got to go back to Lorenzo Brown and Ryan Harrell and CJ Leslie and that group.
Ryan. Yeah.
Big State Media, right? So obviously the hype on that was probably something we'll never see again. Just with that group.
Hope. It was the hope and the hype.
Yeah.
It was the combo.
Yeah. But Abel can really shoot. Yes, really gifted shooter.
Okay.
And I don't know if he'll be Cam Thomas at LSU freshman year, but that's going to be the blueprint that they're going to
They're
they
gonna
could
play
sell
it.
it on.
They're going to play him though.
If he's the starting shooting guard, like what he does because of his shooting, or whether Paul McNeil shoots, they have to have shooting.
Right.
You know, because
you and I are in agreement on this. Yeah.
because it's college basketball is a sport where you have to have 3 good shooters, and if you have 4, that's even better. Like it's just the new math.
At minimum, you need 2. It would be preferable if one of them was a big who could stretch.
So say, Darian Williams 2 years ago, really good shooter, percentage fell off this past year. Trey Holloman has always been in the low 30s. Terrence Arsenal has always been in the 30s.
Okay.
So if Matthew Abel comes in and is that guy that could stretch the defense, space the floor, knock down shots, that's a valuable thing because I don't know how, that's going to be a big question mark going into next year is, shooting and then rim protection. Those 2 things, like, can they have enough shooters on the floor? Will they have somebody that will deter people driving to the rim? And then obviously, like as we mentioned, Darian Williams has to be a closer, but it would be nice to have a second person. I don't know who that second person will be. That's going to be one of the fun things to see the first few weeks of the season. Like they're going to play Auburn and they're going to play Kansas. So like a lot of question marks will get answered one way or the other when you play that caliber teams.
They have a really good schedule, don't they?
They have a schedule that Mark Gottfried would have been proud of.
Okay. Kevin, not so much.
No.
But we're getting back to that. What do you think of so much so far as how Will has kind of handled and kind of stoked the fan base, kind of throwing the red meat, if you will, when necessary?
And you would know more than me, but I always thought that NC State fans have always wanted someone with the Jim Valvano personality, the Chuck Amato personality.
Yes.
And when they get a coach that doesn't have that outgoing nature, it's not what they would ideally want. Will's smart, man. I'm sure everything he says is calculated and he knows what reaction he's trying to get. He's done, so much media over the last 15 years. He's seen it, done it all. And, he knows what red meat is. It's I wouldn't say he's at the level of Debbie Yao.
No one is.
Who is, right? But Debbie knew her fan base.
Yes.
And I think Will
Debbie
understands.
knew the audience.
Now you and I both know that all coaches have short leashes and short honeymoon periods. But if he wins and throws out the red meat, like this fan base will
double combo.
Yeah, they'll wrap their arms around them and make them their own in record time. And if he can beat Duke or UNC, but it's just funny, like, which coaches in NC State history would have done a shot at UNC
that way?
No, but look. That's another thing I got, Matt. And we'll wrap on this. Now that I'm back, I got power sources. I thought I had an extension cord in my car. I didn't. That's a big nothing, man. Like Will's figuring it out with State fans, what plays, what doesn't play, right? And there's also a reality that you're supposed to sell to your fan base in those settings. Should you know that the cameras are rolling all the time? Yeah. But if you understand the context, all that stuff, like, who cares? That's what you want. They didn't utilize Vanilla Lubin.
Well, and
am I misremembering last season?
But part of it is also to try to sell tickets. And
But
we all know
they
what
can
the
do
ticket space was last year at the Nova Center.
It was a problem.
It was a problem.
It was a big problem.
I'm pretty sure that NC State Ice Pack Hockey did better numbers than some basketball last year, especially that non-conference stuff.
No, they did.
So,
there was a point in time where coaches really took on trying to sell tickets, and maybe they do it that first year and then it fades. But when the numbers get to the point wherever they were last year,
they were terrible.
Throwing out
61.
Like 7,000, right?
No,
Yeah.
61.
6,100.
It was terrible.
So, like he's making his mission that place is sold out for the season opener, and not even if it's not quote unquote the Auburn game.
Also,
it would be a major statement by NC State fans if they are sold out for that game and showed up.
That's on the fan base. And that gets back to what you said. Fans say they want a thing. Well, they got that thing. Now you got to back it up.
Now you got to pay for it.
Well, that's, as we talked about with Matt, that's another matter altogether. That's a separate issue. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, man. Thanks for coming.
Not a problem.
Always good stuff.
Love
Always
the corporate champions.
Yes. Support the corporate champions at all times. Speaking of our corporate champions, big thanks to Simply Crepes for being a corporate champion. Check them out. Oberlin Road near Village District and, of course, Lafayette Village. You can check out Simply Crepes. On a day like today, you know they've got a cool, refreshing, alcoholic cocktail that will pair wonderfully with their beignets. Maybe you should go there after another shorty since they don't count. You should get an espresso martini to wake you up.
The champagne combo?
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, that champagne flight or whatever it was they gave us. That was good stuff. And all of that is at Simply Crepes. So go check them out in those two locations. Big thanks to Bloom and Blinds. They did the After Darks for us.
We gotta get Chris out here.
Oh, what, for something like this?
Yeah.
You could do some like automation on the sun coming in.
Yep.
Chris could probably do a great job of making sure that my white balance is correct for the cameras with the shades and all that kind of stuff.
Chris could really help out here.
Easily.
For real.
Well, we might have to connect them. You got a big job, small job, or repair when it comes to your window treatments, Bloom and Blinds is going to help you out. So give them a call at 919-980-9815. You did the smart thing today wearing the row back. I did not. I should have worn the row back today because today is a perfect day to wear that kind of polo that's cooling, moisture wicking, everything else. I am sweating through this Comfort Colors, man. That, on the other hand, is a good move. And it didn't look like you broke a sweat while you were going down your little bike. You know? The good stuff.
I'm going to play the Queen song. I'm going to put the ears in.
I want to ride my bicycle. That's what you want.
Either that or Fat Bottom Girls.
I mean, either one.
You make the rock and roll go around when I ride back.
I wouldn't say you have a fat bottom, though. I would not call you thick with two C's, Joe.
Okay.
I certainly am not.
Okay.
I got my dad's butt, as in no butt. Just
Chicken
saying.
butt.
Exactly. Got some cutlets. Anyway, the rowback shirts. These fit wonderful. Perfect for days like today. Shorts are always money.
Yeah.
So go to rowback.com. You actually got asked by one of the bartenders, yo, where's that shirt from? Mm-hmm. Boom. Done. So go to rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. We're here at Longleaf. They got a great space, man. Maybe you're thinking about opening up your own retail space. Restaurant, a shop. Maybe you need some sort of storage, whatever it might be. Keller Williams Commercial is going to help you out on that. TriangleNCCommercial.com. Give them a call directly at 919-616-8681, and they're going to make sure that your commercial real estate needs are taken care of. The Donnelly team, Brian and Julie, they got you. So if you've got some dreams, you want to open that stuff up, they're going to help you achieve those dreams. And it all starts with a visit to TriangleNCCommercial.com.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, we are getting ready for the Sports Podcast Festival. Richard Johnson, Split Zone Duo, joining us now. Richard, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying my summer. You caught me about 36 hours after a European vacation, so I'm settling back into things.
Were they still talking about the are they already promoting the Aer Lingus Bowl while you were bumping around? Like
doing some stuff. Look, I was doing some location scouting in Barcelona. So hey, if we want to play college football in Barcelona, I have the Rex. I got you.
I love it. But we got the Sports Podcast Festival. It'll be August 23rd. That's week 0 here at the Rialto. Go to therialto.com right now and get your tickets. We've got a June special going on right now. So to see us, Split Zone Duo, and Big Screen Sports, just go to therialto.com. Use our promo code SPF25. Buy one full price ticket. Get the second ticket for $30. It'll be a good time. I don't know what to expect from you guys. Are we getting like hard football? Are we getting like a Will Wade experience? What's happening?
It remains to be seen. We may do a little ACC preview, play to the base there. We may do our season preview stuff. It's unclear right now. The brain trust still needs to decide what the idea is going to be.
I want to hit you with a curveball because I bet you came into this conversation thinking Bill Belichick. Oh, no. What I'm actually more curious about as we hit the middle of June and we're about a month away from ACC kickoff in Charlotte, you know who we really haven't heard from, and he's probably liking this? Dave Doran.
Oh, yeah.
Over at NC State. We have not said a single thing about NC State and Dave Doran bringing back CJ Bailey and everything else, their record against UNC, regardless of the coaches. I find that given how the hype went into the season for Dave last year, he's probably loving the idea that he can sneak up on people this year. That's where he thrives.
Yeah, and if you were any other, if you were any other opponent, having your rival have the train wreck of public relations that has been North Carolina over the last, call it 6 months,
Right.
yeah, you'd lay low too. I mean, it's perfect to sit there and just let that be the thing that everybody's paying attention to. Fly under the radar. Don't let anybody pay attention to you at all.
Where they now all of their off-season circus shenanigans aside, what do you expect out of the Tar Heels in year one under Bill Belichick?
7-5, 8-4, which is to say a North Carolina football season. It's
it tracks.
I think that they are. I think that they will, just because of Bill's sheer competency as a football coach, they will win a game or two that they should not win. Guys, in a clock management contest, battle of wits, are you taking Bill or are you taking Mario Cristobal? They are going to, at some point in time, I don't want to say luck because it's not luck, but he's just going to have a plan on a certain week that is going to come out of nowhere and is going to shock an opponent. What I find so interesting about Bill, what his superpower was in New England outside of Tom, but it was building this infrastructure that could, at any point in time, I heard an interview with one of the McCourty brothers one time, and they were saying, we're playing the Dolphins. It's like a third down late in the game, had to have it. And Bill on the sideline calls down and says, you remember that time we ran this specific coverage in 2008 and it worked? And they ran it in the game and it worked and they got him off the field. It's the institutional knowledge that he had from a program that he had built over the course of 2 decades, that doesn't exist. So for a guy who's trying to come in and his whole id is bespoke game plans and making the opponent operate with their right hand tied behind their back, can you execute that? Can you do that with college kids? Can you do that with college athletes who don't have as much time with you as pros did, don't have the acumen mentally or physically that pros did? How is this going to look? I think is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, that is the great question, because everything that you lay out makes sense logically. Nobody ever questions what Bill Belichick can or cannot do at this point. He has proven what he can and cannot do. There's been a talent evaluation question post Tom Brady and how that translates to the college game. What works in the pros where you might be able to find a diamond in the rough of the best is a little bit different than finding a diamond in the rough, a 2-star guy that you can develop. I mean, we're old enough to remember Butch Davis doing this at Miami, where you had a talent pool. Some guys were overlooked. You could develop them into national championship caliber players, which gets to the other aspect of this. That was a different time in college football. You got contracts in the NFL. You had time to develop back 25 years ago. None of that exists in college now. You might find your diamond in the rough, but what's to stop Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama saying, oh, Bill found a dude? Well, guess what? Why don't you come play for a national champion? Because that's ultimately what the kids want to do. So all these things are just out there, and I don't know if Belichick is equipped to handle all that stuff do you expect him to be there 5 years? I expect him to be there 1 year. How long do you expect him to be there?
Well, here's before I get to that, here's the other thing about the talent evaluation and particularly the front office. It's not Bill doing it.
No,
it's Lombardi doing it. So this is the other difference here. Whereas Bill was Sun, Moon, and Stars general manager, it's a little bit different here. Where, as I understand it, Bill is a little bit more focused on the day-to-day nuts and bolts coaching versus the personnel evaluation and acquisition, certainly versus what it was in New England. So again, that's a little bit different than what I think, certainly what it was in New England and what people I think expect it to be for any college football coach, but especially Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time. As far as how long he's going to be there, I could see it being multi-year just because the place for him to go is the NFL. We all know that the buyout number drops to 1 million, I believe, whenever it drops. But again, that doesn't mean
It already
he's got
dropped. It dropped on June 1st.
June 1st. Sorry. Yeah. But it doesn't mean he's got somewhere to go.
No.
The Falcons kicked tires 2 years ago and said, okay, thanks, but no thanks. Nobody kicked the tires last fall, which is the reason he's the coach at North Carolina right now. So if you're an NFL owner and you've seen what fiasco has been the last 6 months, you add that with, oh, well, he's not going 11-1. So why would I bring in a guy who maybe the game's passed him by a little bit to pair him with a massive distraction that it seems like is happening in his personal life to run my NFL program in 2026? Like, I'll just go find somebody else to do it.
You mentioned Miami. They're not on Carolina's schedule. They have the easiest schedule I've ever seen in 30 years of covering triangle football. So there
Richard,
is that.
Joe can you show Richard on the camera? You've got like a torn out piece of calendar paper with the schedule to remind you. It's like a little token.
Yeah. So
it's Inception, just the one thing to remind you that reality is they've got an easy schedule.
I've got them coming in at 9-3, but one of the teams that is on there is Clemson. And I need you to help me out here. Last year, it was definitively proved that Clemson was just ACC good. Well, why do people suddenly think they have the same players back and they're magically going to win the national title or make some noise in the playoff this year, as opposed to just being the best of the ACC lot?
Oh, I am drinking the vapors, I will say, with Clemson Tigers. I'm in here. Part of it is there's a path discussion, right?
Yes.
Like, in my opinion, Clemson will be a top 4 seed. They will get a bye, and they'll be in that mix, right? Because I don't expect them to lose more than a game in this ACC in their schedule overall. I think Kate Klubnik's good enough, frankly. I think that Peter Woods is probably the best non-Caleb Downs defensive player in college football. And so you've got really good pieces. The Purdue transfer at defensive end, he's wrecking shop. Secondary is, still going to be good, in my opinion. You're going to have what you need on defense. What's going to be funny is the thing that I keep bringing up, which is that, like, Dabo's basically done the stuff everybody pleaded with him to do over the last few years, and they're going to be good this year, and he's going to pretend that he didn't. Or he's going to pretend that he didn't do it because everybody asked him to do it. Like, Dabo, nobody said you got to Colorado-ize your roster. We just asked you to add a couple guys. All right, you went and got an FCS receiver, Purdue transfer, great. Hire a couple assistant coaches outside of the family. Hi, Garrett. Congratulations. Great job. Pay players. Congratulations. They're doing it. Like, nobody asked you to change this whole thing up. Make some subtle tweaks, augment what you have, continue to recruit good at the high school level, and you'll be where you need to be. And that's why I think Clemson will be back to where they need to be. But it's going to be funny when people say, oh, well, or when Dabo says, I should say, that Clemson didn't slip or whatever over the last 4 years. It was like, Dabo, come on, man. Like, that is not true, even though I do expect them to be approximately back this year.
Did they improve their receivers?
I am very interested at what that FCS receiver can do. Just from a body type perspective, I am very, very interested. And that receiver, like I said, I think Kate Klubnik's pretty good. I'm in. I'm in, man. I'm in, man. I'm in, guys.
I think you're watching the wrong games.
He's ACC good. He's ACC good, which is kind of the problem right now. I mean, you were in Amelia Island, and I'm sure that, outside of the Bill Belichick spectacle, Joe and I have discussed this from the perspective of basketball. They're trying to solve these things as though there's some sort of math problem when it comes to scheduling. No, you can't go, 2-14 against the SEC in the ACC SEC basketball challenge. You can't do that and then expect to get placed in the NCAA tournament. Same thing happens when it comes to football. You have to repeatedly succeed at a high level for people to take you seriously. And the ship might have sailed on that, given how we see the college football playoff stuff kind of shaking out. But I got to imagine that was a thing that was the most of consternation. Yeah, Clemson's ACC good. But as we saw in the college football playoff, there's a limit to that.
And frankly, SMU ran the same issue.
Yeah, SMU
you know,
is an issue. I was going to say Indiana. I was going to say Indiana's probably in the same boat as well. Is that there's only so many teams out of these conferences. Now, Big Ten can have Indiana go and get exposed, if you will, but the ACC can't afford that because there is no Ohio State to back that up.
I was going to say, well,
There's no
banana or whatever.
It's a conference depth discussion. Like it's at the end of the day, we know that the SEC has teams that 5 through 9 at least care more than the ACC's 5 through 9. Whether they're better or not is a different story. But if South Carolina was the 5th best team in the SEC last year, that team beat Clemson, as we know. You know what I mean? And that team, I don't know that they would have made any noise in the college football playoff, but that's the problem that I think the Big Ten and the ACC really struggle with. I think the Big Ten and the ACC are in the same position there. The Big Ten's 1 through 4 is as good as the SEC's 1 through 4, probably better considering what we've seen over the last couple of years. But it's that middle tier has always been, I think, from a conference depth perspective, what has always taken the SEC ahead of everybody else. It's those teams care a lot, but someone still has to finish 12th in the SEC, that's the rub.
I knew you're starting to get my juices flowing here a little bit for football and for Charlotte, but I knew last year where SMU was going to end their season. Maybe not the playoff, but I knew they were going to be in the ACC championship game. Who do you look at in the ACC and go, they could be a surprise this year?
Louisville, is it time? Is it time, Louisville? What you got? Can Syracuse pull that trick again? They're making a lot of positive noise, I think, on the recruiting trail. I think it's really interesting to think, maybe that wasn't just a flash in the pan. Maybe they are building something that looks relatively sustainable. Miami, guys, come on. We know what you have. You just had a guy who, after week 1, I thought was going to walk to the Heisman Trophy backwards. And yet, you give it away the way you always give it away. Mm-hmm. So when?
Still found a way.
Is Georgia Tech ready to take that step, or are they just going to kind of continue to be that plucky, we could beat you on a given Saturday kind of thing? Which, hey, there's something to be said for it. Georgia did not have a good time against that team last year at all. So there's something to be said for Georgia Tech just being a tough out.
I haven't heard the team that Joe and I are split on. That's Florida State. I kind of think Florida State bounces back this year.
No, flash in the pan.
I mean, it literally cannot be as bad as it was last year. I mean, Florida State will never go 2-10 with 1 FBS win over Cal by 5 points ever again. It's just not happening. Can there be a base level of competency that gets this Florida State team to 7-5, 8-4? I think so. They will make a bowl. They would it's not. I'm not as concerned just because I think that one of their probably biggest faults, particularly on offense, which was, they are just not tough up front, I think is going to change. I think that is just the thing. If I was Mike Norvell, that's the thing I address from day one. Now, I am worried about if they have to throw the ball and what a passing offense really is going to look like.
Last time you kind of need that in college ball, Richard.
You do need that. But I got some confidence in Gus Bus, retooled offensive system, and something that looks a little bit different to just make them just tough.
I think they're going to make the playoff. Florida State. I do.
Vibes?
Nope.
Just because they can't be that bad again? I don't see it. I honestly think that the Jordan Travis year was the outlier of what we've seen with Norvell. Straight up.
I actually think they're going to beat Alabama in the opener.
I got to take the gambling apps away from you.
DJ Uiagalelei is gone. That was a gigantic mistake.
Right. And who made that decision? Who thought, what? I know how I'm going to keep this train rolling with the transfers in and out, right? I'm going to go get DJU. Come on, man.
That was hubris. I like the kid from Boston College. He's a Florida kid. I actually like him.
Fair.
I think he's a good quarterback.
Fair.
I think he just mentioned it. You got Gus Malzahn. He's in his Dabo phase. Remember when Dabo, they were screwing around, losing to Skip Holtz in the Meineke Car Care Bowl?
It was never that bad, though.
It was. They lost to Skip Holtz in the Meineke Car Care Bowl, and then he decided, you know what? I should just recruit and get out of the way.
Yeah.
I think by hiring Gus Malzahn, they're saying, Mike Norvell's saying, okay, I'm going to step away, bring in this guy, let him run the offense. I think Castellanos I think he's a good quarterback.
Okay.
I have doubts about Castellanos, serious doubts about Castellanos as a passer. Now, like, you know, you bring in Squirrel White, you bring in Juice Robinson, like they have revamped this thing significantly. What are they going to get out of the tight end room, especially if you're going to run the ball to the extent that I think they want to run the ball, and, you know, totally revamped offensive line as well. So look, it's different pieces. It's new pieces. It's, for God's sakes, they're trying something. They're not trying to run it back from last year.
Yeah.
So I'll give Mike a lot of credit for that. You know, I think you've got to change up what's in that room because they were just so not mentally tough last year, especially as it got down to it in some of those close shaves and those close games. You know, it was kind of a fold the tent kind of mindset for them, especially as it gets later on in that season, that you just got to have just vibes, different vibes in that room.
We'll close on this, and Richard Johnson joining us from Split Zone Duo. They're going to be here with us and Big Screen Sports for the Sports Podcast Festival, week 0. I can't think of a better place to be than the Rialto. So go to therialto.com, use the promo code SPF25. That way you get one full price ticket, and then the next ticket is $30. Again, go to therialto.com. You know, I listen to you guys, and you guys are knee deep in this college football stuff. And I wonder, with all the things that are, when you have a commissioner in Greg Sankey of the SEC, who at times I wonder if he even likes sports and he's simply there for shareholder value, to create shareholder value like any other CEO, that doesn't diminish your enjoyment of college football. So like, what keeps you guys still going? What keeps you guys interested in this stuff?
What keeps me interested in it is that every Saturday we keep score. Like at the end of the day,
because we know, remember, we're too focused on not losing. No.
Oh,
not losing.
Yes.
On that.
Yes. If you're Greg Sankey in the SEC, at least admin class, you are worried about, frankly, being scared to compete, and you are worried about resumes, and you are worried about a beauty test. But what I think the last couple weeks in the SEC meeting shows is that there was a miscalculation by the SEC bureaucrat class about what their coaches value. Their coaches still want to line it up, strap it up, and play ball. And the SEC's bureaucrat class, I should say, tried to pork barrel college football playoff format to preserve revenue. And its coaches basically were like, no, we think the SEC championship matters, and we don't want it to be a play-in exercise where 1 and 2 are protected and 6 plays 3 so that they can try to back their way into the dance. Like, we don't want that. Now, again, I don't want to give everybody in the SEC too much credit because they still won't go to 9 games, which has bothered me, you know, till kingdom come. Yeah. And I went to the University of Florida. But I do want to give those coaches credit for kind of standing up and saying, like, no, this is a competitive enterprise. This is a sport. And you know, to the joke, like, it's not just about protecting shareholder value here. It's about playing games.
I wish everybody felt like that. Unfortunately, that is not. Just wait till private equity start. Well, I mean, it's already
we're
there.
Here, right?
I mean, we're already there when it comes to private equity. And it's like, do you really need this weight room?
It was Penn State and somebody else.
We don't need that. We need something. Yeah, I was going to say, I know Florida State's all on board on this. Penn State's been kicking the tires on it. We're not too. I mean, look, if everything's about nooks and crannies, and we're going to talk to Matt Brown of Extra Points about this kind of stuff too. Everybody's already prepared for all the house settlement stuff. Now it's how can you find even more revenue streams? Well, guess what? Private equity is about to have a field day with this stuff. Richard, we appreciate the time as always. Looking forward to seeing you in August, and we'll have a good time at the Sports Podcast Festival.
Absolutely, fellas. Can't wait.
Do you, hold on a second. Let me correct this. Do you have dreams of living in downtown Raleigh that you could walk to Longleaf Swine, where we're broadcasting from today? Do you have dreams of that? Yes. Contact our friends at Hometown Realty, myhtr.com, and they're going to find that dream home for you. You may be looking at new construction. They can handle that too. It all starts with the conversation at myhtr.com. You just purchased a home. You got to insure it. You want to make sure that you save money. It is the OG Summer of Savings.
It
and
is,
Matt Davis is going to make sure that you save money on your home and auto. So contact him today, insuregarner.com, or call him directly at 919-779-8277. Now, we're sitting here talking about savings. You might be racking up some credit card debt. That's a real thing. We're real people here. We're podcasters. We're local podcasters. It's not like we're raking in cash here. We're just making enough to maybe pay some junior canes fees, right? All that kind of fun stuff. You might need to consolidate debt. And that's where Miller Lending comes into play. Check them out, millerlending.com/the OG, or call them directly at 919-447-3377. Gordon and the crew over there are going to make sure that you are absolutely educated on what the market is, how the interest rates work, and most importantly, not paying closing costs. If it doesn't make sense for you to refinance, they're going to tell you it does not make sense to refinance. And then they'll follow up and say, but now is the time. That is the customer service. That's local. That's Miller Lending. So contact them today at millerlending.com/the OG, or call them directly at 919-447-3377. You tell them we sent you. Make sure you tell them we sent you. And a Raleigh Wine Shop gift basket can be yours when you take that thing to close. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe. We're going to have a full mailbag tomorrow thanks to the Butcher's Market as it relates to our top 10 losses, our honorable mentions. Some people got in their feelings about this, not because we were taking them back to like, oh, man, that was brutal. It was more like, how could you not? ... My personal favorite comes to us from listener Ryan. I love you guys, but if you put State Duke 24 in the top 10 and leave out UNC Duke Final Four, you've lost a listener. We explained yesterday why the Final Four loss is not in the top 10. I can also tell you, State Duke 24,
not on the list.
Not in the top 10.
Now,
that's kind of rolled into some Shire lost opportunity stuff.
There's also some that we've missed. I will say
that. We've received some calls on that.
There's Chris Paul with a nut punch.
Yep.
There is the TCU baseball. There's Coastal Carolina baseball. There's a lot. Duke State 1-0 in Charlotte baseball. There's a lot. Of baseball.
There's a lot of them. And that's why the sports phone is there for you.
Quite frankly, I think Armando Bacot potentially had the best reason for Carolina losing to State in the ACC championship for being included on that list.
Interesting.
Because remember, Mondo said, we lost them, and now we got to hear about that shit for the next 40 years.
I mean, that's in there.
And I think we may have missed that by not including it as an honorable mention. I think he was probably right about that.
This is why the sports
that wasn't a good Duke team, though, in 24. No. So there was no pain there other than
you lost to State.
You're having to hear that you lost to State. That's it.
But as we found out from some of our comments on YouTube, Duke never lets the losses bother them.
Yeah, the losses don't count.
They don't count.
Don't ever.
They're very Greg Sankey. You're too focused about not losing.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Of course, the OG Sports Phone brought to you by Nature's Relief. Check them out online, naturesreliefhempstore.com. This might not be gummy weather. You want something refreshing? They've got that for you. Try the Tail Chaser. It's wine alternative in a can. It's good stuff.
It sounds amazing.
Good stuff. They got a rosé. It is rosé season. Rosé all day.
All day.
From Brent, it sure seems like State fan cope to downplay Duke's loss to UNC in the Final Four and somehow spin it as a positive for Duke. I wasn't spinning it for a positive. I'm just saying time is funny, and I don't know the overall repercussions yet. Also, let's wait till we get to the top 10.
What does that have to do with State?
Because UNC fans are funny. Absolute wild take. Okay. That's debatably a more high-stakes game than any Final Four ever, or any final ever. And here's where I think the cope comes in. We want to talk about cope. And this is why, and we're gonna discuss this a little bit more tomorrow in the mailbag, and probably next week when we unveil a top 10 and why the Final Four doesn't count in the top 10. It's an honorable mention. And I'm not saying it's not a devastating loss. I mean, we got the image, as I used in the thumbnail, of Mike Krzyzewski off in his golf cart.
Yep.
No, what you want to say state fan cope. I'm going to sit here and tell you it's UNC fan cope because you know what we don't talk about after the Final Four? Did the Final Four end that night? Was there a championship game? Did Carolina have their own opportunity lost in that game against Kansas with a blown lead?
Blew the biggest lead in the history of the championship game.
So if you want to talk about levels of cope, the levels of cope is we're not talking about the Kansas loss. We're only going to talk about the Duke thing, right?
Which, in fairness to Carolina fans, I understand why they don't talk about.
Exactly. I understand. I want to be clear. I understand the cope. And what I said on Wednesday's show that I'll reiterate today, and I'll reiterate from here on out. Had Carolina won,
different.
We're having a different conversation.
Different.
From a 919, did UNC women's soccer's loss in 2023 NCAA tournament make the list of memorable losses? That loss caused a bunch of players to leave and Anson to step down. True to Giglio's axiom, though, something good did happen for UNC with the Wolf Blood.
The Wolf Blood takes over. They win a championship. No, that was a crusher.
Yeah.
I actually felt that one. I did text Damon, and I was like, man, I wanted that one for you.
Yeah.
Because usually they scored twice in like the last 3 minutes or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Like that was a nutbuster.
That was tough. From a 919, how was NC State 2010 loss to Maryland not in the top 10? Really curious to see what did make the top 10. I was so confident State would beat Maryland that year that I purchased ACC title game tickets.
Oh, 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As punishment for being so overconfident, I still attend that game to watch FSU Virginia Tech in Charlotte on a cold, rainy night.
I'm going to shout out to JXD here, one of our longtime listeners, who pointed this out to me. He's like, this was actually a brilliant idea to do the top losses. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to sprain my elbow here a little bit, but the true genius of it is it's seasoned to taste for everybody.
It is.
Where were you? What point in your life were you? How invested were you? Did you go to the game? Were you with your friends? Were you with your Carolina friends? Were you with your Duke friends? These are all things in the context that matter. Like, do you care about Carolina football more? When we know people who do, who care about Carolina football more than Carolina basketball. Well, yeah. The 2015 game where there is not a single fucking replay that shows that your guy was offsides. That hurts. That stings. If you're a State football fan more so than a State basketball fan, that 2010 game, you're up 14-0. Maryland lost in history, by the way, Joe. Maryland had nothing to play for in that game.
I know.
They couldn't get to the ACC championship game.
That's the best position to be in. That's the best
All
position
they had
to be
to play for was Ralph Regent hating Debbie Yao.
That's the best position to
who
be in.
hired him. So it was like, there's some other ones that people have pointed out to me, like you don't have any of the Phillip Rivers losses to Maryland. Now, we'll probably get to 2002 in the top 10, but none of them are the loss to Maryland.
No.
And the key part of that, though, is back in the day, there was no ACC championship game. So if they had beaten Maryland, they would have won the ACC without winning a championship game. So there's some stinger elements out there, but there's also just a lot to choose from. I hope everyone takes away that more than anything else from this exercise.
Yeah.
Is every fan base has their level of loss. Not only that matters to them, but there are numerous over the last 25 years. You and I have put NC State shit to bed. I think we're correct in that. But this also demonstrates, like Arkansas lost last night in baseball. I don't know if you know this, but Arkansas has been to the Omaha now 5 times and they've never won it.
They're
like the only SEC team who hasn't won it.
You're in the Florida State Club, all that kind of stuff.
Florida State Clemson Club.
Yep.
And they've been favorites like however many times of those 5.
Yeah.
And literally like the 2 players who made mind-boggling errors in the last inning last night are going to be first-round picks.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not just your school that this happens to. As this list should demonstrate, Carolina has had its heartbreak.
No,
Duke,
it only happens to my school.
Duke, whether they want to admit it or not,
no.
has had their heartbreak. And then, of course, we know NC State is the embodiment of heartbreak.
Yes, this is true. All right. What was it from Paul? Hold on a second. From Paul. Kansas lost. The Kansas loss not on honorable mentions is 22 UNC Kansas in the top 10. No, the Kansas loss was in the honorable mentions as related to opportunities lost. That was its own opportunity lost. Is it in the top 10? No,
No,
it is not in the top 10
because
you beat Duke.
you get to walk away from that whole sequence,
The whole thing.
including with the ultimate trump card.
Exactly. So, no, it's not in the top 10. It was mentioned in honorable mentions for opportunities lost because you had a crack at the national championship in the Blue Elite. But it's never going to enter into the top 10 because, as we mentioned, Duke. Also, not to go full Clerks, Dante, you weren't even supposed to be there.
Nope.
So, you know what? Enjoy the ride, man.
Yep.
You're always going to have that ride. Anyway, we got a bunch of phone calls to get to tomorrow for the mailbag. A lot of people responding to the top losses in the Triangle history. I feel like we could even do our own like Canes version, right? We'll play one sports.
Yeah, we did not put any Canes
this
in
was,
there.
This
There
was
was
college.
certainly any number of them that could have applied.
We might have. Again, we got all summer to do this. We might have our own Canes version of this later on. I'll play one sports phone call that highlighted a state brutal loss and incorporated the Canes into this.
Isn't really a loss because the game never was played, but NC State's forfeit out of the College World Series due to the whole team having COVID. I feel like that just where it was in the season, and I feel like that team was going to win the College World Series. And then one, I have the Canes 3-2 loss in quadruple overtime to Florida in game one of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals. I was at that game and it just broke me. Like, I seriously almost considered never watching hockey again. And of course, I still am. So, but that game was just awful. All right. Thank y'all. Love the podcast.
Yes, I think that loss, or the way that series ended for the Canes, the double over, all that kind of stuff, right? Not to give too much away, but to me, the top loss, and we'll revisit this. The top loss is
Don't do it. Save it.
an overtime.
Radio tease it.
It's an overtime loss,
Radio tease it.
and it could have changed history, if you ask me. But we'll save it for our very special Canes edition of top losses and some other things. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up today's show. Big thanks to Longleaf Swine for having us out as always. The beer is cold. It's hot out, but the beer is cold as always. They got great food. And for the mailbag tomorrow, we have a heck of a lot of phone calls to get to, a lot of reaction to top losses before we get to unveiling our top 10 next Wednesday in a brief history of Triangle Good. We'll see you tomorrow for the mailbag.